Hello, my dear friends. You are welcome once again to Succeeding God's Way with Austin Okosodo. Today, my topic is God's purpose for our lives unfolds in phases. What do I mean? The purpose of God for our life unfolds in phases. That means stage by stage. The purpose of God for our life does not come to us like a spreadsheet where you can just see it from the beginning to the end. No, it doesn't come that way. It actually comes like a folded scroll, which as you unfold, it opens up page by page. When page 1 opens, gradually you see the next page or the next stage, just like that. That is how it goes until finally the scroll is completely opened. Now, what am I trying to say here? There is a day God calls a man or reveals to a man what he wants him to become in life or what he wants him to pursue in life. All that God said to you at the beginning is not all that God has to say to you. That journey that God is beginning with you may take years before it comes to an end. It will begin to unfold from that first day He spoke to you and unfold from stage to stage until you get to where you're going. A lot of time in life, you never really know what the next stage will look like. For example, the life of David, or let me use Joseph as an example. You remember the story? He had a dream. That was the first time God was unveiling to him what he was going to become in future. But you see, the next stage that was going to follow, if someone had told Joseph there's something like that waiting for him, he would never believe it. As a matter of fact, he would not want to encounter it. From seeing the revelation, he moved on to the stage where he became a slave boy, was bought by an Egyptian, and then he became a slave in Egypt. We saw from that stage, he went to the stage where he left Potiphar's house, eventually went to the prison. And then from the prison before, he saw the palace. All of these stages were part of the whole big picture. But Joseph couldn't see it from the very first day that God spoke to him in the revelation, showing him how his future will be like. Now that is how it is with all of us. Now why am I taking time to explain this? There are so many people today who will tell you, God told me to start this business. And when God is even telling them to move from there to the next stage, they don't hear God anymore. He told me the first time, I heard it very clearly. That God spoke to you the first time and said certain things to you does not mean that that is all that God has to tell you. Watch out for it. Some people will tell you, God told me to locate my church in this particular place. Yeah, this is where my church must be. But when God is now moving and taking that church to another level, the pastor will tell you, this church can never live here. God told me I should start it here, and this is where it must be. No, brother. No, my sister. When it comes to working with God, you must learn to be spiritually attentive to God. Moses and the people of Israel left the land of Egypt until they came to that mountain where they stayed. They were enjoying manna from heaven. Water was coming from the rock for them to drink, and they stayed there. Between that mountain and where they were supposed to go, which is the promised land, is not a very far distance away. Until God spoke to Moses, you people have stayed here for too long. Now move from here and go northwards. Then they began to move. Otherwise, they will remain in one spot. Some people are like that. Look at the man called Elijah. There was a time God spoke to Elijah. Because of the pronouncement you have made, there will be no rain in Israel for the next 3 years and so on. There's going to be drought, so you need a place where you can stay. I have provided such a place for you. You are going to be there. A raven will bring meat for you, and then you eat, drink from the brook that is just by that place. At the end of the day, Elijah actually moved there. Every day, the raven will bring food, and then he had water to drink at the brook. But a time came, Bible said the brook dried up. What does that mean? Brook dried up, meaning that the sign is there now for you to be getting ready to move. And then God told him, move from here, go to the house of a widow. A widow was somewhere who had a son, and both of them were about to die. So God was changing the focus of Elijah from staying at that point where the brook was to a widow's house where he was going to be provided for miraculously, by God. That was another stage. What if Elijah was just focusing on the brook? This brook must not dry. And he stays there praying and casting out every devil. This brook must not dry. God brought me here. This brook must not dry. Meanwhile, in the plan of God for him, the time for you to stay at this brook has expired. So move from here, because the raven will no longer bring food for you, and the water is no more there for you to drink. This is all God's making, because the time he has planned for you to remain here is over. By his plan, he has made plan for you to move from here to somewhere else. That's what many people do. They stay at that same location, resisting God, resisting the change that God is trying to bring about in their life. Another phase of the journey is opening up, but they are not hearing God, and so they are not able to cooperate. They remain in one spot. So I'm just drawing a conclusion. Because God brought me here, and I have succeeded here, the business did well so far, and it's still doing well. God cannot be telling me to now move from here to another place. God cannot be telling me to drop this product and then bring in that other product that is not even yet known. God cannot be the one saying that. So they can't understand. My dear friend, it doesn't happen that way. Whenever God gives you a vision or helps you to discover your purpose, understand that every instruction he has given you and all that he has spoken to you so far is not all that God has to say. There is still a lot more he has to show you. There's still a lot more you have to watch out for him to hear from him. You have only just begun the journey. It has only just started. His vision for your life, his purpose for your life unfolds in phases. Each stage is meant to prepare you for the next stage. Each stage is meant to prepare you for the next stage. Stage 1 prepares you for the stage 2, and stage 2 is meant to prepare you for stage 3. That is how it goes. So, if you must fulfill your purpose in life, you must understand this point. David was a shepherd boy, remember? From being a shepherd boy, he moved to become somebody serving Saul in the palace, playing the harp for Saul, so the demon that was troubling his life would leave. From there, he fought the Goliath and killed him. From there, he became one of the captains of Saul's army. As a matter of fact, he was the head of bodyguard of Saul, King Saul. From there, what happens? He moved on to become what? A king. Stage by stage, by stage, by stage, just like Joseph's encounter. So the same thing with you, my dear friend. You may be pastor in the church now. Watch it all. God led you to establish that church. God may call you and say, move from pastor in the church to becoming a traveling evangelist or a traveling teacher. Another dimension will open. All of those things are part of what God already has in mind for you. He started you as a resident teacher in the church does not mean that was where he wanted you to be. He started you as a founder to open a church does not mean that's where you are supposed to be forever. Just be sensitive to him. Benny Hinn used to be the pastor of Orlando Christian Center. But many years later, you can say God called him and gave him another dimension. He left that church for someone else. And you see him moving around the whole world, doing the work of the Father. So that is how it is. May you not remain in one spot, thinking that God is still there with you, whereas God has moved. If you allow that to happen, that will be the beginning of retrogression for you. Please watch the crowd. See how God is moving and move with God. How do you achieve this? It's for you to be spiritually sensitive. Know it that where you have started now is not all that God wants to show you. It's much longer than this. There's something more than this. So in conclusion, I want to repeat again, the topic is God's purpose for our lives unfolds in phases. So that phase where you are now is not the final phase. I'll let you know that. So know that there's another phase and another phase. More and more will unfold as you cooperate with God as it takes you from one stage to another. That is how your purpose can be fulfilled and you'll be happy with yourself. So I'll stop it there for today. I want to believe you have learned something. Please, I want to thank all of you who have subscribed to my channel so far. For those of you who have not done so, I implore you to please do so. Join us and then click on that notification bell so that whenever we upload new videos, you'll be notified. And help us to like and share. Also make comments. Thank you so much for your time. My contacts are on the screen. Please try and reach out to me if you have any question or any contribution you want to make. We're ready to entertain it. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.